do have a special moment. I asked your grandfather what's it like to marry into a culture that isn't yours. He took a long time to answer it, and he said, I feel sorry for those that don't have the experience.
Even amongst close friends and things like that. And I know that I've had experiences and understanding that they will never have. And I think it's an absolute privilege.
Ngawaiehu, te Blight Weber.
And I'm Bill Weber.
My mum was Maria Tua Elkington, and my father was Benjamin. They called him Pene. Hippolyte.
Granddad?
My dad was Roy Arthur Weber. He lived his whole life at French Pass. My mother surname was Butler. She was Muriel Caroline Butler from Wellington. And they got married. I can't even remember when they got married, about 1928, I think. And they moved over here and ran the French Pass store.
So who are all your siblings? How many siblings do you have?
Oh, must be 13 altogether.
So 13, 12.
13.
Do you want to name them all?
Yep. John Tione, Joe Ruruku, Hippolyte, Benjamin Ture, Lionel Epirama, Maria Porto, Ratapu, Elkington, Hippolyte, Pohe Hohapata, we called her Nellie, then me, then Emily, Nola May, and then Mum got some extras. Melanie, Kathy. I think Kathy's the eldest. Kathy, Melanie, and Richard. Richard's passed away. Nellie has passed away. John has passed away. Joe has passed away. Lionel has passed away. I've got one brother left.
Ben passed away.
Yeah, Ben's passed away. Ratapu's still here, and Nellie has passed away.
Yeah, I guess it also testifies to how important it is for us to capture these kōrero, eh?
Yeah.
You know, while we have the technology that we have, we can do this.
I actually was trying to get an interview. Our eldest brother interviewed before he died. Well, certainly we weren't expecting him to die. He had so much that he could have left us. And it's the same with Nellie. She was a wealth of knowledge. And we missed that one too.
Yeah.
The others, their families may have caught their wisdom.
Yeah. Nice. What about you, Granddad? Any siblings?
Yeah, there were 5 of us all together. Jenny was the oldest. Then my brother John. Then me. Then another sister, Barbara. Then brother Bob. And then the youngest is Ethelwyn. Sister Jenny died a few years ago. That's the oldest one. And Barbara died up north in Hamilton when she was about 7. So that's our family. John and I stayed on and lived here, and the others have, with jobs and family, moved elsewhere in the country. Yeah.
Nice. And so where did you spend most of your childhood upbringing? Where were you living, Anna?
To begin with, we were at 5 Washington Road. We got into that house through Dad's sister. And when she died, we were able to keep renting it. And then my mother was pregnant with Nola May, I think. We had a lot of family with us at the time. And they were sleeping out on the veranda, Dad and Mum were sleeping out on the veranda at that stage with a canvas around. And it rained and Mum's bed got wet, and that was for Dad. That was more than he could take. He was concerned about it, Mum. So he was able to get a state house. Was it through Māori affairs? He was able to get a house up in Toi. And it was amazing to move from a 2-story place into this brand new home, a lot of stairs. And Mum must have bought a brand new table. And the first meal, she was carrying this hot dish to the table, and my sister-in-law happened to be there, and she said, no, don't put it down, because she was concerned that it was a wooden table, varnished, and she was concerned that it might get damaged, this brand new table. So Mum cut there was some spare lino that had been, so she cut some table mats out so that each place had a table mat made from this lino. We didn't mind.
Nice. What about you, Granddad? Where did you grow up and spend most of your childhood?
I grew up right here in this bay, Elmsley Bay. We lived in a house sort of central to the bay, on the opposite side of the wharf to this one. It was an old cottage that it was a bit like a rabbit warren. It had rooms. You went through one room to get to another room. The shop was in one end of the house and we lived in the other end. But we had a great life. I was interested in Emily's talk where she said they didn't know they were poor when they grew up. Well, neither did we. And we didn't live in town, so we just had the other families around us.
I laughed when he
And
When he first told me that they were poor, I thought he had no idea what poor was.
no,
Because your grandfather had the farm, you had meat, you had fish.
yeah, we did. We had all those things. Yeah. And it was hard work for the parents, but I think basically we had a ball growing up. We all had jobs to do. Later on, it was sort of gardening, milking the cows and all that stuff. But we had plenty of time, and we had this great big playground. We used to catch fish off the wharf at playtime. The school was just through the fence from where we were, so we weren't too late getting to school in the morning. And
except for one occasion.
we could catch fish. We could row out in the dinghy.
Tell them about that.
About what?
You being late. When you were late for school.
Oh, yeah, well, that was a bit later on. That was when Uncle Dave Hemme was a young man just out of school. He was down working on the farm with my uncle. And we used to knock around together quite a lot, although I had to go to school. And the reason I was late was that Dave's favourite trick was when the school bell rang, he'd grab hold of me. Well, he was a big guy. There was nothing I could do about it, except try to explain at school that I think occasionally it led to getting a whack on the hand with the strap. So, yeah, but we had a great life, and there was several other families living in the bay in houses, mostly fishermen, and occasionally there was a married couple or somebody working on the farm. So that's where we lived right through up until about 1956 when I went off to boarding school in Nelson.
Wow.
Our parents did it hard. They had to send us off to boarding school, which was relatively expensive in one stage. I think in 1956 they had 3 of us at boarding school in Nelson. But they worked away, and I think with a bit of help from their parents, they made us, I was going to say, gave us a good education. They gave us the opportunity to have a good education. There were some like me who didn't take that opportunity up. So,
oh, you did.
We didn't do that especially well at college, but we had all the opportunity. It was great. Yeah.
Nice.
A good life.
That's real cool. Oh, sweet. Let's move forward to when you two first met. I want to know the beginning of that, how you met, where you met. So who wants to start that?
Oh, Nana should always come first. Yes.
Nana, where did you first lay eyes on Granddad?
Oh, I think I don't know when I first, because I was coming down to the island. We used to stay at with our aunties and uncles on the island. Mum and Dad moved to town when the boys needed to go to school. So we would have holidays staying with our aunts and uncles on the island. But we also had a place down at Whangarai we could holiday at. But I must have always known who Bill Weber was.
How?
He didn't know me.
How did you know him?
Well, there were a couple of memorable occasions. I can't remember which was first, but it was a whole group of us kids swimming off the wharf, and I jumped in, and I thought I was smart. I reached out and put my hand on Nana's head and ducked her underneath. Well, she didn't take that kindly. And I won't go into details, but that was a first encounter. And then later on...
You didn't finish that. What happened?
Well, I was going to say that you kicked me.
That's right.
You flipped over and kicked me. So I didn't do it again. No. And then later on, another occasion, we were older, and there was a dance down the hall. It must have been after Christmas, because my brother John had just left and headed up to Palmerston North to go to Massey College. And I don't remember it, but I must have been a bit sad and miserable about that. Been left at home, and he was off to something exciting in the future. And at the dance, I think it was at Gay Gordon's, where you changed partners, and I was dancing with Ngawaiehu, and she said to me, "Do you always look so peed off?" And I think I had to try and explain why, and we got on fine, and then I was nursing training at the time, and I was working on the farm, and I used to go out. We'd go to the Stoke dances and all sorts, and we must have carried on like that for a couple of years, and then we decided to get married.
So how old were you? That first encounter when you dunked her under the water, how old were you then?
I don't know. It would have probably been...
16.
Yeah. 14 or 15.
And that would have been around the same age as that dance?
No.
Dance would have been older.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. John went to Massey, I think, in 1960. I left college in 1959, so, yeah. So then, I was 2 years at home on the farm, and then was a year up at Massey College, and came back again, and we picked up our relationship. And then...
I was after
we got...
Margaret Hope's wedding. I think I was at the dance with some cousins at Stoke Hall.
Oh, yep.
And you came in, a group from the wedding.
Yeah. And there was somebody I knew who I didn't know was quite what she was going to say, so I was very careful. Yeah. And then, we used to meet up when we could, and then we got engaged. That wasn't too long. We got married in 1966.
We waited a year
He's waited a year from
after engagement.
Yeah.
So how did you get engaged? How did that happen?
I proposed to you in your house.
What, was that in Washington?
In
No, it
Toy
wasn't.
Oh,
It was at
130.
Liz and Dave Campbell's place. You proposed first. And he'd been drinking, and I didn't know whether he knew what he said, so I didn't take much
she
notice.
didn't even know what I said or whether I knew what I said or whatever, but I did. And I came back the next morning and verified that.
He came back to the nurse. He came to the nurse's home the next day and said, "Do you remember what I asked you?" I said, "Yes."
So what were your first thoughts on Nana when you first seen her?
Well, I've obviously wasn't repelled. I thought I was cheeky enough to duck her in the water, and she was
Was that here?
spunky enough, eh?
Was that here when you dunked her under the water?
Yeah, right, right by the wharf, yeah. And to do something about it, so... And then, later on when she addressed me looking miserable at the dance. So I think they were qualities that I admired, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Nana? Being dunked under
Yeah.
and then insulting him at the dance. What were your thoughts towards Granddad at that time? What did you think of him?
I thought he was gorgeous.
Oh.
That was my opening line, my pickup line.
Nice.
Well, it was successful.
No.
Yeah.
Nice. And so, moving forward, a year later, you were saying is when you decided to get married after the engagement.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2nd of July.
So what
It's
happened?
not a good time to get married.
No.
So what
Because
happened?
when you have celebrations, it's in the winter and not easy to have big crowds at your home in the winter.
in the winter?
So
within that year, you guys were engaged. Did anything happen during that period?
we're both working.
No, we were both working. I was back home from Massey, and John and I took over the farm. We owned it, so I think it was 1962 or 63. No, I was at Massey in 1962. So in 1963,
They weren't
I just
doing
turned 20, I think, when we took over the farm. So, yeah, we were pretty much involved developing the farm at that stage and putting all our Massey College knowledge together, which was good, but it didn't make much money. So, but it was a good time.
made money, but you only took a little.
Well, we took a little from, the knowledge was applicable. I think it was good.
Yeah.
It was good social development for both of us, and it was good to learn and meet other young farmers, and a good experience.
Nice.
And for both of us, we funded ourselves through Massey. So I think we decided that seeing this was costing us our own money, we should apply ourselves a little better, certainly for me, than I did in primary school.
Fair enough.
And at boarding school more, yeah. Yeah.
So you got engaged and then a year later ended up getting married. Who decided it to be a year later? How did that come about?
I think it was probably almost a traditional thing, really. But usually allowed a respectable time. There were a few things here, this house that we've lived in all our married life. My uncle and auntie had moved out when we purchased his interest in the farm. They'd moved up to a place up in Stratford, smaller farm, easier country. This house had a bit of work needed to be doing to it, which
wasn't done during that time.
Well, before we moved in, there was a bit done to it.
Was there?
Yeah, a bit. Lucky Shepherd's next door. Brian Shepherd was, he'd done a bit of painting and paper hanging, so it was pretty superficial stuff. Nothing major at all, but we were lucky. We purchased the home along with the farm, so we had a place to move into. And I think around the family it was said that the Webbers don't build new homes because really you tended to move into the old existing homes that were there. At some stage they must have built a new home. Our grandfather built the big house next door about 1900, and that was new. But we battled on with this place, and we did odd alterations over the years. And then I always said we'd build a new home, but in actual fact, we ended up building half a new home. We built another piece onto the old bit, and we've lived there ever since.
When I came to this home, the kitchen was at the back of the house, and there were trees in front of us, so we never saw the ocean from where the kitchen was.
I remember
This place that
was it the Pūtakawa tree?
Yeah.
Here, yes.
I remember
there was
that.
a Pūtakawa tree,
Yeah.
but there were trees right along there, plus a fence.
Big macrocarpa trees. And the Pūtakawa was a seed that germinated in the stump of the old macrocarpa tree and then grew into a big tree.
All that was in front of us.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
Loved
then
all of you.
when we decided, we made changes in that original kitchen, because when I came here, there was a diesel-back stove, which is worse than a coal range, because the kitchen always smelt of diesel. And sometimes, if you didn't get the heat right, you'd see these fluffs of
Black soot.
Yeah, and when you wipe the wall, it would smear. Wasn't good. But for some reason, it had a red lino on the floor. And when we got the kids, I was very particular about keeping that floor clean. Why? On my hands and knees, polishing that jolly thing. But when we came, I didn't understand the workings of the fridge, which had a kerosene fridge, and I wanted an electric one, which meant that we had to keep the generator going much longer than normal. And so it'll run, and then Bill's dad would get a bit upset that it would stay on so long, and it would switch it off through the day. then switch it on when we needed the power. Yeah.
Yeah.
We made several changes to the house. We did up the kitchen down there, and then we took when we got power, because when we came we had a generator, of course. But when the power came, we changed that kitchen down there and got all new appliances. We thought it was wonderful. In this bay, there would have been 7 generators. And the night the power was switched on, it was an absolute silence. I could swear that I could hear the neighbours speaking. Well, we could, couldn't we?
But it was marvellous, unbelievable. Yeah. I'd like just to talk a little bit about when we first got married. I don't think I appreciated how hard it was for somebody to move away from their family, a pretty tight-knit family, and, live alone. I mean, for me, I wasn't going anywhere. I was coming home. Sure, I had a wife to look after and she to look after me, and that was a lot different, but I don't think I appreciated how difficult it was for Ngawa. And she also moved in and took over the post office duties from my father, and financially that was a help to us as a couple. It was more of a help to the farm, really, because it meant we can continue to draw low wages, putting the money back into the farm and developing it. And it's, I just, as I say, I didn't appreciate how hard it was, and now I was, she was still carrying out the duties of cooking for shearers and any extra labour on the farm and doing those sort of things, and running in and out of the post office. And she probably wasn't behind the counter when some of the local neighbours turned up to do business, and she got, into trouble for that. But it was an interesting time until our twins turned up and our life changed.
Yeah. So what year did you get married?
66.
66. And how old were both of you?
23.
23, that's right.
Oh, wow. 23 in 1966.
It was a year we both turned 23. Our marriage was halfway between our 2 birthdays, really.
Wow. Yeah. And where did you get married?
At a chapel in Nelson.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
During winter.
The one
During winter. Yeah. Well,
winter was because that's when farmers could get off the farm.
True.
And I think we had did we have a week or 2 weeks away?
We had a couple of weeks away.
Yeah, after we were married. And that's interesting too, because Richard wasn't very well at our wedding, and he was very clingy with Mum and spent most of his time on her knee. And we heard while we were on our honeymoon that he had meningitis. Yeah, he was severely
handicapped.
Yeah, severely affected by that. Yeah. He never. Oh, I think he came home when he was. I think he was 3 when he went into the hospital, and I think it was about 8 or 7 when Mum tried to have him at home, but it was too much for her. Yeah, too dangerous.
Yeah, right. And so, okay.
He went into Bremer, was it?
Yeah,
Which was up by Nelson College top
Yeah.
field. Still there.
Yeah.
we yeah. My 2 younger sisters, it affected them most of all, not having him. Kathy would leave school and go up to Bremer, or anytime she felt like it, she would go to Bremer, try to see her brother. Same with Melanie.
Nice. So moving back to what you were saying, Granddad, with the twins.
Yes, we had a lot of learning to do.
Oh, we couldn't have our own children, decided to adopt. We were married 4 years,
Yeah.
and opportunity to have twins came up.
Yeah, how did that come about?
Well, we applied.
We applied to have a child,
tongue in
a
cheek.
child.
We thought,
We didn't apply for twins, but we applied to have a child, and then these twins came up.
no, we did say we'd like twins.
Did we?
Yeah.
Good.
We thought we were pipe dreaming, but they turned up. One of each. Perfect.
Yeah, actually, that's right. We did say that because it was 3 weeks after we applied. They said we have a set of twins, but all the paperwork and everything took a long time, and I think they were 3 months by the time we got them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2.
We got them, they were born in December 14th, and we got them in
April.
early April.
Oh, what year was that? 70.
71. Yeah. They were born in 69 and we got them
In 70.
1970.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that's Mum and her twin.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah, that was. I tell you, I was worried about bringing them out away from Nelson. How could I? Yeah. But let me tell you, this was all meant to be. They were meant to be ours. We went to town one day. I'd been collecting. I only had 2 things for babies, and then we thought we'd better get to town. When we heard that we were getting twins, better get to town. We went to was it the social services or something?
We were in Blenheim.
Yeah, we went to Blenheim, and they gave us a list of things that we needed for the twins. And we went to a baby shop, and I told them we were going to have twins. And this woman that was serving me had twin grandchildren, and another woman that had twin.
It was a customer.
Yeah, no, there was another one working there that had had twins. And they just looked at my list, or our list, and you don't need that, you don't need that. They just cut that list down, and then they said, and you don't want to buy too many baby clothes because you'll get gifts. And then we bought all these things anyhow. Then we came out of that shop and we bumped into this couple that had twins, and they were in a pushchair. And I stopped them and I said, we're having twins. Did you have a pram for those children? And they said, yes, we did. We still have it. Would you like it? So we got those, and then on top of that, they gave us a lot of stuff that their twins had. I wish I could remember who they were on. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting.
They were so kind.
They were kind. They worked at Woodburn, he did. He was somewhere at the Air Force Centre there in Woodburn. They lived there. We called there on the way home, and yeah, they were generous. Lots of encouragement and lots of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the day we came in, they flew into Nelson, and all the family was excited, so they all came down to the airport. And we get these two kids. Nita was all right. She was lovely. Yeah, she had violet, her mouth, she had thrush. And poor old Greg, he had a little hat that came down here. He had a T-shirt that for a 3-year-old on, and they were wrapped in nappies. And both of them were pooey. And I thought, oh, these poor babies. I couldn't believe it. But anyhow, Emily was with me, and she said, I said, I need to bathe the kids. First of all, John was away and he had the car, so we had to borrow a car to come out and get the kids. So we had Pat and Joy Hope's car, station wagon, and we had 2 carry cots in the back. And they said, don't worry, they'll come in their own layers. So all we brought was nappies and the carry cots. And then we picked them up, and we got instructions that we were to wait and go into a room, and the exchange would take place privately. But we got too excited.
We went to Auntie Maria's place.
Yeah, we ran onto the tarmac to greet our babies. But of course we had to back off and go in privately, and when Caroline came along, things had changed. She came, and I had said to the rest of the family, you'll stay away. We'll bring the children to you. Let us greet our daughter. Because I didn't know how she was going to come. And she came, and it was smelling lovely, looking lovely, all nice and clean. And we didn't have to go and bathe her.
How old was she?
She
was a month, was she?
At least, I think. Yeah,
It just took so long to
remember.
do the paperwork, and of course they had to come and
Did
visit
we
you,
get
see if
her
you...
Just before Christmas, was it? Or,
Yeah.
yeah, because she was born in November, so yeah, you're right. It's been about a month.
So how long after the twins?
7 years.
7 years later. So what made you decide to get another one?
Just felt we should.
Yeah, we felt
You need another baby.
there was a gap there, and we were quite amused because when we applied, they noted our application and said it was quite urgent because the parents were getting old. We were 35, I think.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that
Women are having babies at 40 now.
one funny thing was, well, looking back on it, was they wanted us to go north. The twins were in Auckland as little babies. They were slightly premature, I think, and were in hospital. And they wanted us to go and view the babies before we said, you know, we'd accept them. Well, we sort of looked at it and how much it was going to cost us to fly up there and whatever. We decided, we said, well, who else gets a chance to pick their babies? Babies are born and they're your babies.
Yeah, that's right.
We said, we won't
We'll take the babies.
we'll use that money to buy stuff for them back home. And they said, oh, well, they're quite different. So one of them looks almost Indian.
Yeah.
So it was funny, but they were beautiful babies. They were, yeah. Yeah, that was an interesting time, but that's a long time ago.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when we got the twins, we took them to Auntie Maria's place, and Emily bathed them while we went away and bought some new clothes. And then I worried about coming out into the country. So I took them to the doctor and I took them to the Plunket. And at that stage, I think Māori didn't go to Plunket. They went to district nurses, didn't they?
Something like that.
Yeah. Anyhow, I took them to Plunket and I just wanted them checked over. I didn't want to...
Stress, eh?
Yeah. I want to make sure that they were all right. I was quite panicky, really, when I got back. I've nursed, but these are mine. These are... Oh.
You learn on the job.
Imagine having twins and, you know, giving birth to them and having to come back and look after them. Yeah, that would be hard. You'd want some help, wouldn't you?
So Caroline came along, and then how was that process? Was it a bit easier?
Yeah.
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 Had a bit more experience?
Yeah.
And, you know, we had the twins. Nita May loved having a little baby sister.
Yeah. I remember when I fell in love with the babies. Really fell in love with the babies. Yeah.
Can you tell me about that?
Nita was like, I knew babies, lovely babies, beautiful babies. Oh, lovely. But I remember when I fell in love with them. When I realised Nita didn't cry much. And Gregory, no, it was the other way around. Nita cried quite a bit, and Greg didn't. And then I realised he's a lot darker. And I thought, and she came in those pretty clothes, and he got a T-shirt for a 3-year-old. And I thought, never mind, you're mine now. Yeah, I fell in love with him. I remember, because you were here, I fell in love with you instantly. You were born here, and I remember, and you were a second child. So, Mum, your mother had an easier time. Oh boy, I thank her now, but at the time I didn't. She didn't tell us. She waited for us to wake up before she told us that she had started labour. And by the time I said, we got to get to town quickly. And it was a 2-hour drive. And somebody wanted to iron something, somebody wanted to do something. Come on, we're taking this too lightly. So we left it too long, and I said to Nita, get on to you and tell them it's too late, I think. So they sent a helicopter, which was great. And Nita was able to have her baby here, which was lovely because she'd left her husband, and there was we didn't have to deal with him, and she didn't have to deal with him over your birth. So she could just have a baby, it was so lovely. We were going to go over to the island to a health committee meeting. And so I had some of the women from the district here. We were all going to go over there, but when they heard that Nita was going to have a baby, they just hung around. It was a village birth. It was lovely. And Pip Applin was in the bay, and he'd heard that Nita had had her baby, so later in the afternoon. So he came up to see Nita and the baby, and he said, I think he thought he'd got it wrong. Maybe because he saw her out at the gate chasing the sheep out of the gate. Yeah. She did so well.
Mm.
Yeah. And with Carolina, it was instant. I think it was, John came with us and the twins were there when we picked up Caroline, and this is our baby. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It was a family thing.
Yeah, it was lovely. Because with the experience with the twins, we told the rest of the family to stay away. We'll bring them to you. It was just so lovely. With Ezra, it wasn't until the next day that I could spare him a thought. I was concerned about Nita. But I held Ezra that next day, and I just, oh, goodness. First grandchild. It's really something.
Yeah, and then we found out afterwards that
Is it tissue?
you were the second baby that had been born in this house. And the first one was my aunt, Auntie Dorothy, who lived to be 100. And we took you up in Hamilton to see her in the rest home at Cambridge.
Wow.
So we've got a photo amongst our stuff.
Oh, wow.
Nursing you. You were the second baby that was born
Yeah.
in the house. Yeah.
Oh, so she was born here.
Yeah.
I thought I was the only one.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. Yeah, well, in those days, you know, they had to pick the time and go up to Nelson sort of weeks or whatever before the baby was born. And with all of us, my siblings, we were born in Wellington because that was Mum's brothers and Dad was still living in Wellington at the time. So we all went to Wellington to get born. But not you couldn't wait.
Yeah.
The helicopter guy landed up by the tennis court. He got out and he had a midwife with him, but he said to us, if that baby's going to be born in the next half hour, she's not getting on my helicopter. And, I don't know, it was all over in how long? 20 minutes?
Because she'd been in labour for...
Yeah. Yeah, she'd been in labour for a while.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you ended up whāngai with Pete?
Oh, yeah.
Because I was young, but I can remember a little bit back then.
Yeah.
He was about 10. 9 or 10 when he came to live with us, when Nellie died. It was tough for him. It was tough for him losing his mother. You know, he witnessed her bad health, and he was living in Nelson. He was at intermediate. He didn't really want to come, and I can understand that. He was living with cousins up there, with McGregors, and going to school. But anyway, he did come. He had a guy from up north who was, what was he, a caregiver, I guess. He and Nellie, between them, had sort of some arrangement where they were looking after Pete as a baby.
Oh,
So he did know Tony. So Tony came and stayed maybe a month or a couple of months with us while Pete was here too.
he was sort of like a father figure for Pete.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we ventured into
Yeah, I think...
Whāngai at one stage, didn't we? But
Oh,
you
yeah.
wouldn't remember, that was before your time. There was another little boy from Hamilton that came down and lived with us for a while.
That's what I've got to say. Auntie Nellie left us, Pete.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
That was one of her
But
things was that he
There
went.
had to be an arrangement with his family that somebody had... They are... One of their family was also a caregiver.
Yeah.
No, not a caregiver, but on the adoption. No.
No, it wasn't a doctor. It was
No.
a caregiver. Yeah, Nellie
Legal.
and he.
Yeah, it was us and one of them. I can't remember who they are, but whenever we went up to Auckland to meet them all, they never showed up. So, but Peter was able to go back and with Tony up north and meet his North Island cousins, and I think he's been up since, which is good. I just feel for Pete.
Yeah, it was a pretty tumultuous time for a kid.
Yeah. And then Robbie was with us probably a year. It was a year before the twins went away to boarding school. We also had other children in the house attending school here. So and Caroline started school that year too. So it was probably not a good year for Rob, though he was a great kid, you know, amazing. But it seemed to me that any time he got annoyed with us or whatever, or actually he was allowed to go home whenever he felt like it. And the reason he was not with his family is because they weren't good to him.
When he came back, it was like starting all over again.
Yeah.
So in the end, we said, well, if he goes home again, then you better
We have
stay.
to start again.
You better
all over
stay
again.
there. Yeah.
Settling him down. And we had the kids who were going to go away to boarding school and Caroline starting school. And we thought we couldn't keep on trying to settle him. I regret that decision now, of course. We would have managed.
I
think?
don't actually feel that way.
Don't you?
No. I couldn't. I guess, you know, Pete came a year or two after that. Maybe it was more than a year or two after Robbie went back. Yeah. Anyway, they were interesting times, busy times. But
Oh, yeah. When I came to this district, the women were marvellous. They were community people. The whole area were, community minded. Anything that went on down the hall, everybody attended. It was great.
it was different times altogether.
Yeah,
Federated Farmers and Women's Division,
yeah.
they met regularly. They were good times. We played rugby and we carted your mum and Greg out and carry cots in the back of the car. Went out with Nelson, we played rugby.
You played rugby in
Blenheim.
Takaka. I remember one.
Even Takaka once.
The kids were young. We travelled all the way over to Takaka and it rained. And those poor little things, we clean them and feed them in the car. We never got out of the car.
No, not all day. We drove back home again.
And then
I just want to pull us back to you two. Is there any favourite moments you have with each other?
no,
One moment that you can think of.
I can't really think of a standout at the moment. We have so many good moments. And when we look back, we had, we've travelled and sometimes we've been in places where we pinched ourselves. Just can't believe where we were, places we've read about.
And what about you, Nana?
yeah, I do have a special moment. I asked your grandfather, what's it like to marry into a culture that isn't yours? He took a long time to answer it, and he said, I feel sorry for those that don't have the experience.
Slick with the words there, Grandad.
Well, they were genuine, and I do, I've been to, even amongst close friends and things like that, and I know that I've had experiences and understanding that they will never have. And I think it's an absolute privilege.
Beautiful. What's the key to a long, successful marriage, in your guys' opinion?
Patience, understanding.
What do you need patience for?
Realising you don't know everything. You learn a lot as you go along, yeah.
Nana?
I'm just so lucky. I married a good man. I feel cherished. I have always felt cherished in our marriage.
You what?
I'm not going to tell you. Did you hear it? Did you hear it?
You say you've been lucky, but I think you create luck. You are who you are, and I've been lucky too. So, and we're coming up 60 years
Next year.
next year.
Wasn't that a great? I mean, I remember 30. We decided to celebrate our 30th wedding anniversary, and a chance to get everybody together, and then getting close to it, I thought, boy, 30 years is really good, and it meant a lot more as we got closer to that date. Well, we had our 50th, and next year we might have our 60th.
Yeah.
If we're still here.
Our 50th was a great party.
Yeah.
We could, everyone here,
Were you
friends
here?
from all over.
I think I was in Australia.
Yeah, I think you were too.
Yeah, I do remember seeing photos and stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
we had. I said, what do you want to do on your 50th wedding anniversary? And he said, I want a seafood extravaganza. And I thought, right. So we started. When did it start? It started in the morning because it's in the middle of winter, as we said. And we wanted it to start in the morning when we had the sun, and we could have something out on the front lawn. So I told the kids what I want is a station for each seafood. So we had, Caroline had cut the kina in half, and so she had, shaken out all the goop. And so she had these half
Muscle
floats with all these half kina in on one table. And Greg had a station for fried cod, And would you believe it? We ran out of fried cod. And then there was smoked salmon, crayfish. The day before, Mike Terry turns up with this. Gets out his big pot and his gas stove and cooks up these crayfish. And then I think he also brought some groper steaks.
Yeah, he started
So
frying
somebody
up
was cooking
groper steaks.
groper steaks on the barbecue. And there was, I mentioned, there was mussels too.
Yeah.
And then all these crayfish.
Did we have oysters?
Yes, there was.
There was oysters.
The oysters were open though. And we had that was the seafood extravaganza. Then we had a marquee set up for the evening meal, for the dinner. So between that time, they had time to socialise. And then we had the dinner in the marquee. Auntie Em had decorated it as the marquee. And everybody came in. And Bill and I were sitting at this round table for 10. Nobody came and sat with us. We had to go. Well, we thought you were saving them for someone. No, we finally got somebody to come and sit with us. And then after we'd eaten, then the speeches started. And then after that, we went down to the hall where we had entertainment. Kia Ngawaiehu group was here and they entertained and we danced and we had dessert. It was a moving feast, that's what we called it for the day.
Was it John Boy did a hangi boil up thing? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he cooked the pork, didn't he?
Yeah.
And on the barbecue. I don't remember a boil up that day. But anyhow, it was super. And the day before, I said to my sisters and my nieces, none of you are allowed, it's my day tomorrow, nobody's allowed to look better than I do. So Maria Jane was here, she had to give up a nice jacket that she was going to wear so I could wear it.
Yeah, I remember with, they set up the lawn so well with the eating stations. And when you and I got ready, came out, we were probably a little bit late, walked out on the veranda and everybody was here on the lawn. It was extremely moving.
It was. I found that moving too.
Moment, all our rallies, our friends, and from all over, they were there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's going to be even bigger next year then.
I
don't know what we do. They might have to wheel us out there and feed us. No, sure. Surely not.
Oh, let's hope not.
No.
I just have one more question. We usually ask at the end of these podcasts. It's if there's a message to leave, say for people that will watch this generations later to know who you are, what's a message that you would like to leave behind? Maybe something of significance, something that you've learned throughout your life, something that might be important for people as they go through life. Is there something you can think of?
Manaaki. Oh,
I'm struggling to think of any one thing.
keep a sense of humour.
Yeah, keep a sense of humour. Go through life with tolerance.
I want to tell you, you know that Bill's family come back and my family come back. When Bill's mother died, we both, I believe it was both of us, thought that, this family could move apart because Roy was still here, John was still here, but, somebody else here beside their family. So we wanted to make sure that they were always welcome and invited them home, come home. And it's worked. I remember Bill telling me about his grandmother when she wanted was it their golden wedding?
It was their golden wedding.
Yeah, they had their golden wedding here. And the whole idea was to get all her she wanted the cousins to know one another. So she wanted all of her family home, which he could do, and they were here for a week. And so we decided to make this place open to the family. And we're so grateful that they have done that.
Yeah,
They
they do come. It's been successful.
Yeah, they come home and they bring their in-laws home.
Yeah, they feel they can, and that's the big thing. Feel they can.
And I believe they feel at home when they're here. And we've also cleaned up the cemetery, and so the ashes are coming back here, and so the family is being marked up there.
Yes.
We no longer farm. We sold the farm, but we kept the homesteads. And we're so pleased we did. It's still home. And when we still own with John the back, up to the back.
Right to the ridge line, right around.
To the ridge line, yeah. It's, now we're not running sheep. It's a bit of a worry. But we don't want to sell it. We want it to always be home for them. Home for our kids, our families, both families.